we kind of alluded to it on our Monday morning tight end show about Sky Moore heading to IR and Justin Ross being elevated to the 53-man roster. But you kind of on that show, you talked about specifically Richie James kind of being before Justin Ross, a guy who will be kind of more of a focus between the two of those guys, between Ross and Richie James. And Andy Reid, right out of his mouth. I don't know if he was listening to the show, JD, but he kind of commented on that. And if you look at Richie James's role since he's been back from the injury, he's been killing it in his return man role. And in the last 3 games, he's logged 5 targets and 3 receptions for 33 yards. And that was only in 17 offensive snaps. And Andy Reid commented on Richie James and Justin Ross. He quote was saying, "We'll have to see on Ross just where that goes. I'll get with Vish today and we'll go through all of that. Richie, though, has got to play more than 2 snaps. So that's my responsibility on that. I didn't have him in on enough stuff. He's a good football player, though." So my question is, what do you think Richie James can bring to this offense with getting more snaps? And who do you think is going to get more of Sky's reps between Richie and Ross? How do you think the reps will kind of be rotated between the two of those guys?
I don't know. I would say that I would regulate the snaps to Richie James. I mean, Richie James has been out there practicing. He's been getting out there, getting all the, all the work. So he to me, he's a proven guy. What I've seen, what he did in San Francisco and what he did in New York, he runs great routes. He's very detailed in what he does. He can get open. He's got that speed. He's got that fast twitch. He's a very capable wide receiver. I think he's the guy that when we signed him during the offseason, I was really excited about when I kind of went back over his film and just kind of heard what, the offensive, the coaches were saying about him. And so to me, when you have an offense that's been struggling, you always want to try to tether yourself to something that is going to be pretty solid. And so to me, Richie James just makes sense. We know he's a very capable return guy. But giving me more plays, more opportunities and looks on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's going to help us out tremendously.
And when Andy says I need to do a better job of getting him in on stuff, like, because we talk about, and you obviously in the tight end room and stuff, when you were being told to go into the game, was that your tight end coach saying that, or was that the OC, or was that the head coach? Because I'm kind of curious, because we talk about Andy being the head of the offense. Mm-hmm. So he should be the one saying, "Oh, Richie, let's get you in on this package." But when he talks about, I need to do a better job of that. Who's the one? And I know we've talked ad nauseum about the wide receiver coach and all that stuff. But generally, when they tell certain guys to get into the game, certain packages and stuff, is that head coach? And obviously depends on what kind of if it's a defensive coach or offensive coach. But generally, is that OC or the positional coach who sends guys into the game?
Usually positional. I think you get it down in the week, what your personnel group is. So I know I would go in ace, deuce, Trey sometimes. It kind of depends. But usually the guy that calls in the personnel is the one that gets you in the game. And then, of course, if you talk to your coach, position coach, he sends guys in and out. Our OC, Al, was in the box. So he wasn't the one necessarily putting guys in. Or at least if I called up there, he'd be like, "Hey, JD, I need for you to be on this play or something." That's how it would necessarily happen. But you got, Andy, who calls plays on the side. Nagy, who calls plays, who's on the side. Connor's on the sideline as well. So the rotation pretty much falls on probably Connor and Nagy, those guys. Because sometimes you don't want guys switching themselves in and out unless the guy just needs a break. So that's on the coaches for as far as the rotation, goes.
And obviously the big thing from the snap count looking at this past weekend, we talked about Sky's reduction in his snaps offensively, MVS's reduction in snaps offensively. Do you think, and this is something, because a lot of people thought that, we kind of made jokes about it, but that Ross was coming in to replace Sky Moore as far as his reps. And I think you're right. I think Richie James will be the one he's got more of the Sky Moore build and kind of, playing style. Justin Ross, we're still trying to figure out what he is exactly, but I feel like he would take more, if he was going to rotate with anybody, I think it would be more MVS's reps, more so than Sky's reps.
Here's why I'm leery about, the Justin Ross thing. Okay. I know everybody's very optimistic. My thing is, because of situation that went on with him these past few weeks, you know, he hadn't necessarily been out there to practice, you know, getting the type of rapport with Patrick like we'd want him to. And so, you know, do the coaches just throw a guy like that in who hadn't been out there, you know, practicing and getting the reps that he needs? I don't know. That's a question for them to answer. And so it would be probably a little bit more practical to put a guy that has been out there getting the reps, who have been doing the things like Richie James, as opposed to a Justin Ross. Now, if you're saying, hey, look, we're just going to take a shot with a guy and put him in there, then fine. That's, you know, then go ahead and do that. You know, and they could very well do that, right? You know, I don't know. But see, that's all on the coaching staff, what they want to do. To me, practicality, you know, matters. And so if Richie James has been a guy that's been out there, been in the meetings, been doing all the things, been doing all the work, it just makes more sense to put a guy like that Richie James in.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.